Recognize that your mental health is so important. If you don't, then I promise you'll be so distorted. Stiffened by your thoughts, that's a mental rigor mortis. I'm on a hard mission and it won't be aborted. Assorted memories will seem to be your remedy, but in your darkest hour form into your enemies. Trust your gut, judge people off their energy. Cut them off quick and fast, they are limiting your room to grow.
You're listening to the Expect Effect podcast, where the concept of self-care is our primary focus. Listen, we know life is hard, but we believe self-care doesn't have to be. So consider this an acknowledgement of feeling, a judgment-free zone, the birth of every great idea within you. This is your weekly dose of me time, and I'm your host, ITSJUSTNIKIA. So sit back, relax, and unwind as we, together, uncover ways to truly expect better, do better, and believe better. Let's get right into it. Welcome to my living room. Take your shoes off, please, and have a seat. We are stepping into the weekly wind down segment. This week, my goodness. You want to talk about overwhelmed, overworked, stressed, exhausted, confused. While I am fortunate to still be employed at this time, I did have to experience some of my coworkers and my partner get laid off this week. I lost a friend this week. I found out someone that I was rather close with at one point in my life, not that long ago, passed away suddenly, and it really, really shook me, considering especially that he was a year younger than me. I'm 24 years old, so he's 23, or was 23, and that's still something I'm grappling with saying or speaking about or coming to terms with. And I think on one hand, it's this concept that life is and has a tendency to be so finite, right? It is so unpredictable. At any moment in time, it could really be our last moment. You don't think about the conversations you have with people per se, or who you're not keeping in touch with to the best of your ability. You get so caught up in moving forward and wanting to produce something, and you get so caught up and so structured in your own life and so busy sometimes that I think there's really this disconnect and ability to engage with the people we know we would lose it over if we were to lose them. So I really do just implore you, be close to people, be close to your people, do better. If you're slacking in any way, acknowledge where you may not be being met, meeting the needs of someone else who you do consider to be a close friend or lover or family member, whatever the case may be. I just really want you to take a moment and value the people in your lives, because there's going to be a point in time they're not going to be there anymore. And it may not be you who goes first. You just really never know the day or the hour. You're not going to know the situation. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of hitting this off on a heavy note, but y'all, heavy is what I feel. The state of things right now, it's very draining to try to keep a sense of normalcy among the craziness, but I know it's possible. I'm doing everything I can day to day to keep a routine. I can't tell you how good showers feel, or just washing your face, doing laundry, picking up. I ordered some new stuff in from Amazon. Hopefully that Rona didn't find her way into my house, but I done been to Whataburger and everything else. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've been social distancing 110%, but after I went to the grocery store today, did I also go to Whataburger because I could purchase a medium fry and a medium drink and get a free Whataburger? I did. So, but it's just kind of weird because even that doesn't feel the same, right? Like going outside, nothing feels balanced. And so I know it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. Our country is at the highest rate of unemployment filed ever in the nation. And those are things you cannot ignore. The trajectory of the world is very confused right now. You're hearing of deaths every other week, and you're hearing of new reported cases. And there's just so much media and news that can come at you. And then when it also infiltrates your real life, when you are experiencing a layoff, when you're unsure of what the money looks like, when you are confused about what your next steps are, when you don't know how to proceed, when it's not making sense, like, what do you do and how do you get your bearings together? And that is really what I tried to spend the week figuring out, like so many of you. In any instance, and this isn't to say that life is terrible, I don't equate easiness with peace, and we'll get into that at another time, but it's one of those situations where it was just definitely a heavy week. It was heavy for me emotionally. It was heavy for me workload wise, was crazy. I had to cancel certain engagements. If you'll notice, this is a solo episode and we normally have a guest on every week. And I do want to give a big ups to Roman DeFro, who is a no deal artist, a member of the no deal community, a very talented rapper, who had me canceled probably at 7 p.m. I was just dealing with a lot of things that particular day. Our episode recording was slated to go, I want to say we were on at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Set to record the episode that you're listening to now, or our segment thereof, and man, did I fumble it. I just really lost control of my ability to manage my affairs, my emotions, and get a good gauge on everything that was happening. So I do want to just be full and forthcoming about that and just say thank you so much to Roman. We have attempted to reschedule, so hopefully he is available. If not, that's all on me, y'all. One day soon, I do hope to have Roman DeFro here on the Expect Effect podcast. But it's not going to be this week, unfortunately, which Roman is such a wonderful talent. I've had an opportunity to watch many of his interviews and to engage with him briefly, and so definitely plug into his music if it's not something you've done. But back to just this craziness that's going on, I just feel like there's so many things that are simply unpredictable by nature. So losing or hearing of death by anything other than something like corona related just kind of threw me. To hear that I lost a friend and it wasn't due to this madness or this pandemic that's going on, right, was just another kind of gut-wrenching reminder that there's still real life issues going on. There's still people who were behind on bills before this happened, people who didn't understand or know how they were going to set up childcare. There were people questioning the state of their marriages and the state of their relationships, people who had huge mental health issues well before it was a mandatory call to isolation. Like, nothing feels as it should, and that can be very tough to balance. But I am fortunately back on track, getting back out there, 10 toes down, never stopping. As Nipsey would say, the marathon continues. All right. Like Sierra says, I'm just going to 1-2 step my way to the next thing. But I do feel good. I feel rested. I feel as if I've had a good opportunity to reflect and kind of balance. I set up a desk. Like I said, I ordered some stuff for Amazon. We got a little bit of a different space where I'm recording the show, which is fun. I got to spend a lot of time with my girl, who is an amazing sense of relief and balance for me in a lot of situations and instances, and I just have to give her a lot of credit for being a huge source of encouragement and a great outlet for communication. And so you want to talk about helping me stay structured and organized. When I said I was going to cancel the show, she was like, are you sure? Do you have a replacement guest? Like, what are the people going to think about that? And really, she walks me carefully through each choice, even if she cannot fully interject and make me make the right one in each instance. She is just an unending sense of peace and comfort and never-ending support, but asking the right questions. That was kind of one thing that I picked up on in our engagement that I do want to touch on here today. Once we do dive further into the episode, just asking yourself the right questions. Having someone who allows you to recognize when maybe what you're doing is a little too brash, but I want to set it up in a fashion of that person being you. Many of the questions that she was asking me are just questions I failed to ask myself. Did I have a proper backup plan? What was I going to do? What what happens in the instance of attempting to do last minute rescheduling. You know what happens when just your bearings aren't in order, when you are very, very overwhelmed. And I feel like as a nation, we are very overwhelmed right now. So I did want to take a minute, just me, to kind of unpack some of those things with you guys. Before we go on, I want to stay in the weekly wind down segment just for a moment. I did previously state at one point in time that I was going to start a second podcast. And I have opted to furlough that idea for the time being. It is still something worth exploring, but I want to give this show every opportunity to become all that it can. When I think about where this show started, I was using my phone in my closet on just literally testing different applications. I knew somewhat how to edit, but everything was just me playing around and figuring it out, and then developing a sound, to making beats, to deciding to have guests on the show, to determining what the best source for that is. And there's so much that has to be poured into something when you want it to do well, that I don't want to take away from this. Furthermore, I'm still toying with how I would want to release that said production. Is it going to be another independent project, or is it something that can be done with a team? It is. I don't want to say that this idea is dead, because it's really not. But the format is meant to be lax. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be socially engaging, and really just kind of unprecedented and polar opposite in many respects to how calm and to how laid back and to how organized and structured this particular show is. So I also don't want to throw too many different spectrums out at one time. I want to keep as much of a balance as I can. So I think right now there's just a lot to consider. And coming from where we started, I want to ensure that everything is done correctly. So at this moment in time, we're cooling on that idea. It's there, it's around, it's coming, but I want the expect effect to truly just break barriers. That being said, I did get word back this week. I previously mentioned that we had done an interview for this show. I got word back this week from Voyage Dallas that interview is in the final stages of editing. So we're doing the touch-ups there. I still don't know when the interview is coming out, but with that confirmation, I'm happy to say that you will have an opportunity to read more about me and the show in an upcoming issue of Voyage Dallas. So be on the lookout for that. I'll definitely be doing all of the promotion. Be sure to follow us at the Expect Effect Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, as well as my personal pages at ITSJUSTNIKIA on Instagram and Facebook. Listen, however, to make up for the fact that today is going to be essentially a shorter episode and also a guestless episode, not that I am not enough for you. Because if I'm not, let me tell you, don't forget to go when you leave, okay? There is no expect effect without me in the middle of a good time. And most of you are not going to know what that means, but that is a shout to Joanne the Scammer, whom I love. She constantly makes me laugh. I can't think of a social media presence I truly adore more than Joanne the Scammer. So if you're not familiar, go get familiar. And I mean that. Pause this episode and go get familiar. Laugh about something and then come back. But really, in all seriousness, based on the fact that we're not gonna have a guest today, and also part of the reason being, on top of being overwhelmed, just poorly organized on my part, we are going to have 2 episodes per week, ending on May 3rd and beginning on April 12th. So this next Sunday, there's going to be 2 episodes every week all the way through May 3rd. We already have the guests booked. We have everything slated. Emails have been sent, confirmations are done, and we are locked and loaded with 2 guests per week at minimum through May 3rd. So these episodes have already been set up. Obviously not all of them are recorded yet, but we're going to be getting there. And so that's going to be a really, really cool thing we're doing. There are so many people that I want to introduce and have on this platform, and I've had the opportunity of engaging with and communicating with, and I want to build on that. And one thing I toyed with was how to build on that when I did initially really only want to do 1 episode per week. But then it's just like there's no time to sleep. I got to capitalize on it. I have to get moving. These are connections that I'm only going to have this chance to make. And definitely the situation where we lost this week's guest reminded me that You're only going to have so much time to make certain decisions, connections, or engagements. So it's important to capitalize on them when possible. So we didn't stretch it out. We went right into it. You're going to get 2 episodes per week. And I mean 2 full-length episodes, no bonuses, 2 guests. We're starting that beginning April 12th through May 3rd. And that's just the opening goals for the show. Me and myself, I have a lot of aspirations for what I would like to do aside from the show, having all of these episodes lined up, and where really nothing else is needing to be done. And guys, there's so much work that goes in on the back end with me doing everything by myself. I do the social media posts, the blogging, the weekly social media posts, things you see throughout the week. I obviously host the show, I record the show, I edit the show. So I do all of that, all of the connects and all of the networking, that's me. So to have really essentially all of those things done other than just the bare bones recording and some editing, that's really nice and really refreshing, and allows me an opportunity to work on other things that excite me, like school. My classes that I do take and pay for excite me. Comedy excites me. Stand-up comedy really, really excites me, but I haven't touched it in a long time. Some of that due to personal struggles and turmoil, and some of that being shift of focus. You start doing different things. I want to put more emphasis and work into other platforms that I work with, serving as a digital media coordinator with No Deal. There's so much that I want to do there and do with Ashir, who's previously been on our show. Shout out to Float Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee. Go check that episode. But there's so much that I want to unpack and do on that platform in this role. And that's the thing. Like, I'm also, writing now for Black Label. Shout out to those guys who I love and adore. And I'm seeing all of the benefits that come with that. But I'm trying to get it all together and balance It's Just Nikia and the Expect Effect podcast. Because as much as they are one and the same, they are 2 different entities, and who I am as a person is not bottled up in the show. As much as I love it, if it were to fall right now, I would still be standing. And so there's a lot I'm still trying to balance while having that brand. A year ago this time, I just dreamed of having a show. I didn't really think I would have the moxie to get it started. And within a matter of months, we have propelled and moved forward and have managed to move forward so quickly that it's mind-blowing. It's truly, truly mind-blowing. And y'all already know what it is. God all day this way with me. I can't accredit it to anything else, but it is something. But it's a lot to manage. I'm learning. I'm really, really learning. And I'm really, really taking steps I've never taken before. I'm taking leaps I've never taken before. I'm doing so many things that I never imagined I would be doing or have the opportunity to be doing. You guys are going to be out there at some point. You're going to be on social media and you're going to see me in a quick advertisement for Chime Bank. Okay, we didn't come up on this new equipment by chance. But there's just so many things I've had an opportunity to do by the grace of God and just by due diligence and due effort. So just know that if you apply yourself, it's possible. But there's a lot I'm trying to get together. So, I mean, what a time it is. What a time it has been. And ultimately what I want to do, I don't know where my words are going. I think I'm stumbling off in thought, but I'm bringing it back, y'all. Ultimately today, what I want you to do, to say all of those things, to have gone through that whole spiel, to let you know I'm overwhelmed and that I've been tired and that I've been stressed and that I've really been disengaged to a point that it's now visible, right? We had a forced canceled engagement this week, so it's just me on the episode. I want to encourage you to do whatever it is to get your shit all the way together. No matter what that looks like for you, figure out what it is you need and capitalize on that thing. Do you hear me? If you need rest, figure it out. Get some rest. Sleep all day. If you need time with your family, come up with a concept to bring everyone out of their rooms. If you need to restructure or reorganize, then do that. Don't allow yourself to become so overwhelmed with the current state of things that you begin to let essential engagements fall by the wayside. Your family still needs you. Your friends still need you. The version of you you're dreaming of when this is all over, that version of you still needs you to show up today. In whatever capacity that may be. Put your phone down. Stop focusing on what seems to be trending. If you don't want to work on this day, then don't. And that's another thing I'm even having to disassociate myself, is I feel guilty for not having jumped on the situation sooner, for not properly assessing the fact that I was approaching a burnout stage sooner, for not realizing that the slightest thing, just the slightest thing to go wrong would really, really throw me off my game. Also, all things considered, we're in the midst of who knows what, so I think I had to give myself a break and saying, like, it's okay now to do what needs to be done. You didn't do it then, but you need to now do what needs to be done, because just belaboring the issue and continuing to go on and move forward and put on this face, this mask, that's going to lead to a bigger crash than just a couple of cancellations. That's going to lead to darker times, darker places. That leads to not coming outside. That leads to not picking up the phone. And I'm just speaking to how I handle stress and what happens to me and how I shut down. But that leads to not calling people back. That leads to not showing up at all. That leads to falling off completely. So then I had to really tell myself, if I don't want to work on this day, then I will not, because the longevity of me is above this moment. So if you don't want to engage with others, then don't dwell here. Don't stay in this place. But every day, the only thing required of you is what you need in that moment. And I know what you may be thinking. Nikia, what if I don't know what I want? What if the reason I'm on social media is because I need the validation? What if I'm not getting off the couch because I have no motivation? What if I'm working on my circle of friends, but it's still shitty? What if I'm trying, girl, but it's not it? And to that I say, everyone, myself included, should take time to interview themselves, at least once. Asking yourself the right questions will not only bring you closer to who you are now, but most importantly, it will bring you to the version of self that you're working so diligently to create. Proper self-reflection serves as a mirror to your innermost desires, goals, and hopes. Some you won't even realize you had. Don't overthink it. There are no rules. At this moment, the entire world is shut down in one way or another. Go with your first response. You can unpack your answers after they've been written. This is meant to be a form of release, an opportunity for learning, an expression of self-love, and a moment for increased engagement. Some questions you might consider. When did you do something for you? Like, when's the last time you did something for yourself? Another question may be, would you want to be your own friend? Do you like you? And I mean, like, really like you. Another question, let's say money is no longer an object. How would you then spend your time? Do you clothe yourself in other people's expectations and desires for you, or do you know what you want for yourself? Do you feel there's a difference in the way you respond to motivation versus failure? So, like, do you have different, rather motivational responses to failure or success? That's really the type of question I was trying to get out there. Essentially, what motivates you more, failure or success? A really cool question someone asked me is, what do you want written on your gravestone? And kind of just trying to recoup and balance myself. These were just a couple of questions that kind of bounced off and had to be asked and assessed. And there's the list goes on. I could sit up here 22 more minutes and tell you questions that I think you should ask yourself, or things that I think you should really engage with. The reason this episode is called In That Order is not just because I watch Love and Hip Hop, which I do, Atlanta only, but it's because this is the perfect time for you to get in order. And I mean all the way in order, as much as you can. And some people are going to take this as me saying, get your shit together, and say, look, I need to pay 33 bills right now. I need to clear up all of my debt. I need to cut off all of my toxic connections. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that right now you need to figure out what it's going to take to get you balanced, to get you back on track, to bring you to a level of contentment, to bring you to a level of manageability, to bring you to a level of peace. Get to the point you're not shutting down and assuming that the world is crashing, and you're not finishing out what you've started. Get to a point where the routines aren't kicking your ass, and where the deadlines aren't kicking your ass, and all of a sudden you're just really letting life fall by the wayside because you fear what's happening, because you have not taken the time to properly manage what's happening, because instead of having a clear and decisive schedule, you have 15 sticky notes everywhere. Don't start to rise and then allow you to stand in the way of improved opportunities or better days. Everything that's happening right now, as scary as it is, to some degree, it's also what we make it. We have an opportunity to be grateful, to be humble, to be open, to be together, to be a decisive unit, to learn more about ourselves, and then throw that amazing engagement and self-reflection back out into the world and watch it unfold in a really, really, really beautiful way. You guys, thank you so much. I just really wanted to take a moment to unpack with you guys, to talk with you, to say that I love you, because I do. I love you guys. I care. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here every week. I wouldn't be so open. I wouldn't be so honest. But I need you to be just as open and honest with yourselves. I need you to love you as much as I do, to show up here every single week and push a message of self-care, self-love, and high expectations. I need you to love you as much as I love me. That when you do catch something going on, no matter how deep you are into it, you say, I'm going to turn this thing around. And I'm going to put myself in a position to be successful going forward. We cannot do anything about what has been done. We can't change it. We can't take it back. We can't, literally nothing. If I could, girl, let me tell you, I'd be a millionaire 5 times over. I think I said Oprah because I was thinking about Oprah's money, but I would be a millionaire 5 times over. And that's about Oprah's money. No, it's not. That's 5 million. That's what 1 times 5 is only 5 million. So then that's not even a fraction of Oprah's. Oprah sees 5 million and scoffs at it. Oprah is well over $1 billion worth of money. And that's how much money we would all be worth, I'm sure, if we could go back and change aspects and areas of our past that we simply cannot. So don't dwell there. Don't sit in that space. Don't think about today's headlines. Unplug. Remove yourself from the news. Don't think about yesterday's mistakes. Just think about you. Get to know you. Sit down. Get it in order. Get it together. And get comfortable with yourself. Because when you do, that will provide the first sense of balance needed to see yourself to the version of you that you desire to be. There is so much more than what you're making in this moment. So go forward. It's going to be okay. I know it's scary. I know it's frightening. It's a whole bunch of things that we don't want, but it's what we got. And the best thing you can do is ensure that you are in the best shape to move forward. This has been another week of expecting better, doing better, and believing better. I'm your host, it's Just Nikia. Be sure to follow at the Expect Effect Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, as well as my personal page at It's Just Nikia on Instagram, Facebook, and be sure to check out both YouTube pages for a wonderful surprise. We just put out a new piece last week. I write poetry a little bit here and there. That's called Friend Request, so be sure you check that out. We're starting back next week, April 12th, all the way through May 3rd with 2 episodes every week, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time every Sunday. We'll see you next week.